I overheard my wife tell someone that I meant nothing to her. What I discovered next was even worse. She had been using my identity for months, opening credit cards under my name, and planning to disappear with her lover, a man who had a history of ruining men's lives. They thought I was just a quiet guy who would never stand up for himself. They were terribly mistaken. My name is Julian Holbrook. I'm 43 years old, and for the past 15 years, I've been building my business, servicing industrial generators and backup power systems. It's honest work. When the lights go out, people call me. Hospitals, factories, data centers. They all need someone who can keep the power on when everything else fails. I thought I was pretty good at fixing things that were broken. It turns out, I was blind to what was breaking right in front of me. The day everything changed started like any other Tuesday. I finished a maintenance job at the textile plant outside of town ahead of schedule. The new Caterpillar generator they'd installed was running perfectly, and I wrapped things up by noon instead of the usual 4 o'clock. Belinda, my wife of 18 years, wasn't expecting me until later. I pulled into our driveway in my work truck, tools still rattling in the back. The house looked peaceful enough. White picket fence, red brick colonial. The kind of place where you'd expect to raise a family and grow old together. We tried to have children, but life had other plans. After years of disappointment, we had settled into a routine that felt comfortable, or so I thought. I grabbed my coffee thermos and walked toward the side door that leads into the kitchen. That's when I heard her voice through the window. Belinda was on the phone, and something in her tone made me stop. It wasn't the voice she used with her sister or book club friends. This was different, softer, more intimate. I stood there like a fool, hand on the door handle, listening to my wife talk to someone who clearly wasn't me. Julian doesn't suspect anything, Belinda said, and my stomach dropped. Honestly, Wade, he's so wrapped up in his generators and electrical panels that I could probably move out half our furniture and he wouldn't even notice. Wade, apparently, said something that made her laugh. Not the polite chuckle she gave my dad's jokes at family dinners, but a real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from her in years. You're right, she continued. He's just there like furniture. I overheard someone at work say their husband was the love of their life, and I realized, I don't think Julian means anything to me anymore. Not really. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I stood there frozen, watching a squirrel run up the oak tree in our yard, thinking how that little creature had more purpose in its life than I apparently had in my wife's. I could have stormed inside, confronted her, demanded answers, and fought for what I thought we had. Instead, I did something that even surprised me. I walked away quietly, didn't slam the door, didn't rev the engine, just backed out of the driveway like I was leaving for another job. And what happened next? Well, that's where this story gets interesting because walking away quietly turned out to be the smartest move I'd made in years. Sometimes the best move is the one no one expects, especially when you're dealing with someone who thinks they have you all figured out. I drove to Miller's Diner on Route 9 and sat in my truck for an hour, staring at the crumpled receipt from the generator parts one bought earlier that morning. Funny how a man can spend his whole life fixing other people's power problems and never notice when the lights go out at his own house. 3 days passed before I heard from Belinda. 3 days of me sleeping in my truck outside 24-hour diners, washing up in gas station bathrooms, and pretending to check on generator installations while my world was falling apart. She finally called on Friday morning, her voice all sweet and concerned. Julian, honey, where are you? Belinda asked when I answered. I've been worried sick. Mrs. Henderson next door said she saw your truck leave on Tuesday, but you never came home. I almost laughed. Worried sick about the furniture guy she'd written off to her boyfriend, Wade. I had some emergency calls, I said, keeping my voice steady. Generator went down at the hospital in Millfield. You know how it is. Oh, of course, she replied. I could practically hear her relief. Well, hurry home when you can. I made that pot roast you like. The pot roast I like? Right. The same pot roast she had probably been making for Wade while I was supposedly working late all those nights. After hanging up, I sat in the parking lot of Bobby's hardware store, watching normal people live their normal lives. Guys loading lumber into pickup trucks, probably heading home to wives who actually cared about them. That's when my phone buzzed with an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject, no greeting, just, you need to see this, with a video attachment. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The video was grainy, shot from across a restaurant, but I could see them clearly. Belinda and some man I didn't recognize. Tall, dark hair, expensive suit. They were leaning close over their meals, and she was touching his hand the way she used to touch mine when we were dating. The audio was muffled, but I caught pieces of their conversation. When are you going to tell him? The man, Wade, I assumed, asked. Belinda shrugged. Why would I tell him anything? Julian's useful, right where he is. He pays the bills, fixes things around the house, stays out of my way. I get everything I need from you, and everything I require from him. Wade laughed. You're cold, baby. I like that about you. I'm practical, Belinda corrected. Julian thinks he's married to the woman he met 20 years ago. He has no idea who I really am now. And as long as he keeps being his predictable, trusting self, he never will. I watched the video 3 times before it sank in. This wasn't just an affair. This was strategy. Belinda had turned our marriage into a business arrangement without bothering to tell me I was now just a silent partner. I replied to the anonymous email. Who are you? Why did you send me this? The response came back almost immediately. Someone who thinks you deserve better than being played for a fool. Meet me tomorrow. Rusty's Tavern on Highway 6. Noon. Come alone. I stared at that message for a long time. Every instinct told me this could be a setup. Maybe they were trying to mess with my head even more. But what did I have left to lose? My marriage was already a joke. My wife was already gone. At least now, I might finally get some answers. I started the truck and headed toward town. Time to find out just how deep this rabbit hole really went. Rusty's Tavern looked like the kind of place where bad news goes to die. Dark wood paneling, neon beer signs that had seen better decades, and a smell of fried food and broken dreams. I walked in at exactly noon, scanning the room for the person who'd turned my world upside down with just one video. A woman in the back corner booth raised her hand slightly. Mid-20s, auburn hair, nervous eyes that kept darting toward the door. She looked like she'd rather be anywhere else on earth. You must be Julian, she said as I slid into the booth across from her. I'm Iris Payne. I work at Belinda's insurance office. I studied her face, looking for any signs that this could be a setup. Why should I trust you? I asked. Iris pulled out a manila folder and set it on the table between us. Because I've been watching this train wreck for months, and somebody needs to warn you before it gets worse. She opened the folder, revealing printed emails, bank statements, and what appeared to be legal documents. My name was on half of them. Belinda's been using your information to open credit accounts, Iris said quietly. She's got 3 cards in your name that you probably don't even know about. She's also been forging your signature on insurance claims. My blood ran cold. What kind of claims? I asked. Fake medical expenses, mostly. She says you've been getting treatment for back injuries that never happened. The payouts go into an account. She opened another document. One she opened using your social security number. I flipped through the papers, recognizing my personal details, but none of the signatures were mine. How long has this been going on? I asked. At least 8 months, Iris replied. Maybe longer. She's been careful, but she got sloppy with the paperwork. WD's been helping her. He knows someone who makes fake documents. Wait, I said, realizing something. The man from the video, he's more than just her affair partner. He's her business partner in ruining my life. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Iris looked down at her hands. My dad went through something similar. His wife cleaned him out while he was working double shifts to pay for her girls' trips. By the time he figured it out, she destroyed his credit and disappeared with his retirement savings. He never recovered. I felt a surge of respect for this young woman, risking her job to help a stranger. What else do you know? I asked. There's more, she said grimly. But not here. Too many years. Can you meet me tomorrow night? She asked. The parking garage behind First National Bank, level 3, 8 o'clock. I nodded, pocketing the folder. As I stood to leave, Iris grabbed my arm. Julian, she said urgently. Whatever you do, don't let on that you know. Belinda is planning something big, and if she realizes you're onto her, she'll accelerate the timeline. I walked out of Rusty's Tavern, feeling like I'd just been handed both a weapon and a time bomb. The parking garage was eerily quiet at 8 p.m., just the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of traffic. Iris was already there, leaning against a concrete pillar with another folder in her hands. I brought everything I could copy without raising suspicions, she said, handing me the documents. Julian, this is bigger than identity theft. Belinda and Wade are planning to disappear. I opened the folder and saw plane tickets dated 3 weeks from now. 2 tickets to Phoenix under the names Mr. and Mrs. Julian Holbrook. But the photo on the passport wasn't mine. WD's using your identity, Iris explained. They've created a whole fake paper trail showing that you sold your business and decided to relocate to Arizona for health reasons. Belinda's been telling people at work that you've been having heart problems. My hands were shaking as I flipped through fake medical records, business sale documents, and bank transfer forms. They've thought of everything. There's a house already purchased in Phoenix. Iris continued, a mortgage in your name? Of course. Wade will become the new Julian Holbrook, and you'll be left here with nothing but debt and a ruined credit score. I felt anger building in my chest like steam in a boiler. How is this even possible? I asked. WD's got connections, fake IDs, forged documents, people who will verify anything for the right price. He's done this before. I found records of at least 2 other men he's impersonated, other victims. Carl Brennan in Ohio, Marcus Todd in Georgia. Both middle-aged guys with successful small businesses and trusting wives. Wade seduced the women, convinced them to help steal their husbands' identities, and then disappeared with everything. I studied WD's fake passport photo again. With some hair dye and the right clothes, he could probably pass for me from a distance. What happened to the other wives? I asked. Abandoned once Wade got what he needed. Brennan's wife ended up in a psychiatric facility. Todd's wife, well, nobody's seen her since. The implications hit me like a freight train. Belinda wasn't just planning to rob me. She was planning to destroy me completely. And based on Wade's history, she might not even survive the experience herself. We need to call the police, I said. Iris shook her head. WD's got someone on the inside, a detective named Ray Kowalski. He's been feeding Wade information about ongoing investigations. That's how they've stayed ahead of the law. I felt trapped. My wife was planning to erase me from existence with the help of a career criminal, and the police couldn't be trusted. But I'm not going down without a fight, I said. What do you suggest? We build our own case, Iris said. Gather evidence they can't dispute. Create a paper trail they can't destroy. And we do it fast, because in 3 weeks, Julian Holbrook disappears forever. I looked at this brave young woman who was risking everything to help me, and I made a decision. Then let's get to work. The next 3 days were a blur of careful planning and secret meetings. Iris and I worked like a team of investigators, building a case that would expose everything Belinda and Wade had been doing. But the more we uncovered, the angrier I got. Not just angry, furious, in a way that surprised me. I'd always been the calm, steady type, the guy who fixed problems quietly and moved on. But watching my wife systematically destroy my life while pretending to care about me, that lit a fire in my chest that I didn't even know existed. We need to get Wade on record, Iris said during one of our meetings at an all-night truck stop outside town. The financial documents are solid, but we need him to admit what he's doing. How do we do that? I asked. Iris pulled out a small recording device. What if you confronted him directly? Not Belinda. She's too smart, too careful. But Wade's cocky. He thinks he's untouchable. The idea scared and excited me at the same time. You want me to wear a wire? I asked. Not exactly. I want you to provoke him into a situation where he can't help but brag. Men like Wade love showing off how clever they are. We spent another hour planning it out. I would approach Wade at the construction site where he supposedly worked, one of the lies in his fake resume. I'd pretend to be a potential client, get him talking about his business, and see if I could get him to slip up. The next morning, I drove to Morrison Construction on the east side of town. Wade was there, wearing a hard hat and clipboard like he belonged, but I could tell within 10 minutes that the guy couldn't tell a Phillips head screwdriver from a flat blade. I walked up to him with my best friendly smile. Excuse me, are you Wade Kessler? He looked suspicious for a second, then switched on his charm. That's me. What can I do for you, Julian Holbrook? I said, extending my hand. I heard you might be available for some electrical work. I run a generator service business, and I'm always looking for reliable contractors. The irony wasn't lost on me. Using my real name to investigate the man who was planning to steal it, Wade's eyes lit up with dollar signs. Electrical work? Sure. I do it all. Residential, commercial, industrial. What kind of job are we talking about? For the next 20 minutes, I led him through a detailed conversation about a completely fictional warehouse project. Wade nodded knowingly and threw around technical terms that made it clear he didn't know what he was talking about. But then he started getting comfortable, started bragging. You know, Julian, he said, I've got my fingers in a lot of different pies. Construction's just one part of my business portfolio. I'm also involved in some, let's call them consulting opportunities. What kind of consulting? I asked, keeping my voice casual. Wade looked around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. Identity management, helping people transition to new lives, new locations. Sometimes a man needs to disappear, start fresh somewhere else. My blood was pumping, but I kept my expression neutral. Sounds complicated, I said. Not if you know the right people, Wade said with a smug grin. Documentation, financial transfers, even law enforcement contacts. I've built a whole network. In fact, I'm working on a big project right now, helping a local businessman relocate to Arizona for health reasons. I almost choked. He was talking about me like I was already gone. That's fascinating, I managed to say. Must be profitable work. Wade's grin widened. Let's just say I won't be needing construction jobs much longer. I left that meeting with enough recorded conversation to bury Wade and a rage burning in my gut that I'd never felt before. The man wasn't just stealing my identity. He was enjoying it. That night, I sat in my truck outside our house, watching Belinda through the kitchen window. She was making dinner, humming to herself, looking for all the world like a devoted wife preparing a meal for her hard-working husband. The performance was so convincing that for a moment I almost forgot she was planning to destroy my life. My phone buzzed with a text from Iris. Got more documents. WD's been busy. Meet me tomorrow. Urgent. I was about to put the phone away when another message came through. This one was from Belinda. Honey, where are you? Dinner's getting cold. I made your favorite meatloaf and mashed potatoes. My favorite, right? I hadn't eaten meatloaf in 5 years, but she probably figured if she was going to play the loving wife, she might as well go all out. I was about to drive away when I saw something that made my blood freeze. Wade's car pulling into my driveway, not parked down the street, not hidden around the corner, right there in my driveway like he owned the place. I watched him get out of his car and walk to my front door like he lived there. Then I saw my wife open the door and kiss him. Not a friendly peck, but a real kiss, the kind she used to give me when we were newlyweds. That's when something inside me snapped. I got out of my truck and walked straight to my own front door. Didn't sneak, didn't hesitate, just walked up like the homeowner I still was and turned my key in the lock. The look on their faces when I walked into my own living room was almost worth everything I'd been through. Belinda went white as a sheet, and Wade looked like he was trying to figure out if he could make it to the back door before I stopped him. Don't let me interrupt, I said calmly, even though my heart was pounding like a jackhammer. I just came home to grab a few things. Julian, Belinda stammered. I can explain. Can you? I asked, looking directly at Wade. Because I'd love to hear how you explain helping my wife steal my identity and forge my signature on insurance claims. Wade's face went from surprise to calculation in about 2 seconds. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I said, pulling out my phone and hitting play on the recording I'd made that morning. Wade's voice filled the room, bragging about his identity management business and the local businessman he was helping relocate to Arizona. The color drained from Wade's face, but he recovered quickly. That conversation was hypothetical. I was just making small talk. Well, were the fake passports hypothetical, too? I asked. How about the forged medical records? Or the house you bought in Phoenix using my name? Belinda found her voice. Julian, you don't understand. We were trying to protect you. I almost laughed. Protect me from what? From yourself, she said. You've been acting strange lately. Paranoid. Unstable. We thought if we could get you some help, maybe a change of scenery. It was exactly what Iris had warned me about. They were trying to flip the script, make me look like the unstable one. But I wasn't the same trusting fool I had been a week ago. Save it, Belinda, I said. I know about the credit cards, the fake medical claims, and the business you're planning to steal. I know Wade's real name is Wade Kessler, not whatever he told you. And I know about the other men he's done this to. Wade's expression hardened. You don't know what you're messing with, Julian. Actually, I do, I said, looking him straight in the eye. I know exactly what I'm messing with. The question is, do you? For a moment, the room was dead silent. Then Wade took a step toward me, and I saw something in his eyes that told me this conversation was about to take a very different turn. Wade stepped closer, and I could see the calculation in his eyes. He was weighing his options. Fight or flight, he said quietly. You're making a big mistake, Julian. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I do, I replied, standing my ground. Carl Brennan in Ohio, Marcus Todd in Georgia. Should I keep going? That got his attention. Wade's confident mask slipped for just a second, and I saw something ugly underneath. Those were business arrangements, he said. Mutually beneficial partnerships. Is that what you call it when Marcus Todd's wife disappeared? Wade's eyes went cold. Accidents happen, especially to people who don't know when to mind their own business. Belinda grabbed his arm. Wait, stop talking. But he shook her off and focused entirely on me now. You think you're clever, don't you? Recording conversations, gathering evidence. But you're forgetting something important. What's that? Wade smiled, and it was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. Detective Ray Kowalski is a close personal friend of mine. Any evidence you think you have will mysteriously disappear from the police station. Any charges you try to file will get buried in paperwork. And if you keep pushing this, you might just have an unfortunate accident yourself. That's when I played my trump card. Too bad Kowalski doesn't know, I said, pulling out my phone and showing him a fabricated email confirmation. I've already sent copies of everything to the FBI field office in Albany. Wade's face went white. You're bluffing, he said, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Am I? I said. I pulled up the fabricated email. Agent Sarah Mitchell is very interested in your identity theft operation, especially when I told her about your connection to a local police detective. Wade looked at the phone, then at Belinda, then back at me. You have no idea what you've just done. Yeah, I do, I said. I've just taken my life back. Wade grabbed Belinda's hand. We're leaving now. But I stepped between them and the door. Nobody's going anywhere until the real police get here. Wade reached into his jacket, and for a terrifying moment, I thought he might have a weapon. But instead, he pulled out his phone. Ray, it's Wade. We've got a problem. As Wade spoke to his corrupt police contact, I texted Iris. Need help now. My house. Bring everything. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. Wade paced like a caged animal, while Belinda sat on our couch looking like her world was falling apart. Every few minutes, Wade would glance at his phone, waiting for his detective friend to call back. He's not answering, Wade muttered. Maybe he's busy, I suggested. Maybe the FBI got to him first. It was another bluff, but Wade was starting to crack. The confident con man was being replaced by someone desperate and dangerous. Then I heard it, the sound of vehicles pulling into my driveway. But instead of police sirens, I heard the rumble of my brother Quentin's diesel truck. Quentin walked through my front door like he owned the place, followed by two guys I recognized from his construction crew. Big guys, the kind who settled disputes with their hands. Julian called me, Quentin said simply. Told me he might need backup. Wade looked at the three men blocking his escape route, then at me. This is kidnapping, Wade said. No, Quentin said. This is a citizen's arrest. Julian showed me the evidence. You're not going anywhere until the real authorities sort this out. That's when Iris arrived with a box full of documents and a laptop computer. She set up on my kitchen table like she was running a command center. I've got everything, she announced. Bank records, forged documents, travel itineraries, plus that recording from this morning. Wade looked around the room at Quentin and his crew, at Iris with her evidence, at me standing between him and freedom. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked scared. Belinda, he said urgently. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding. But Belinda was staring at the documents Iris had spread across the table. Wait, what is this? A house in Phoenix? Plane tickets with Julian's name? I can explain, Wade said desperately. No, she said quietly. I don't think you can. And that's when we heard the police sirens, real ones this time, getting closer by the second. The police who showed up weren't Ray Kowalski's corrupt buddies. They were state troopers responding to Iris's anonymous tip about federal crimes in progress. Wade's face went white when he saw the uniforms. Nobody move, the lead trooper announced. We're responding to reports of identity theft and fraud. Wade tried one last desperate play. Officer, thank God you're here. This man has been holding us against our will. I'm Detective Ray Kowalski's partner, and we were investigating this, Wade began. Ray Kowalski was arrested 2 hours ago, the trooper interrupted. Federal charges, identity theft, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. So, Whatever story you're about to tell, you might want to rethink it. The room went dead silent. Wade looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Iris stepped forward with her box of evidence. Officers, I have documentation of systematic identity theft, forged documents, and fraud involving Mr. Kessler and Mrs. Holbrook here. For the next hour, my living room became a crime scene processing center. The troopers photographed documents, took statements, and slowly pieced together the scope of Wade and Belinda's operation. Belinda finally broke down when they showed her the fake passport with Wade's photo and my name. I didn't know, she kept saying. Wade told me Julian was having a breakdown, that we needed to protect him. But the evidence said otherwise. Bank statements, forged signatures, travel bookings. It was all there in black and white. Mrs. Holbrook, the lead trooper, said, "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit identity theft, fraud, and forgery." As they led Belinda away in handcuffs, she looked back at me one last time. "Julian, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far." "Yeah, you did," I said quietly. "You meant every bit of it." Wade didn't say a word as they arrested him. He just stared at me with pure hatred in his eyes. After they were gone, Iris and I sat on my front porch while Quentin and his crew cleaned up the house. "So what happens now?" I asked. "Now you rebuild," she said. "Wade and Belinda will probably plead bargain, but they're looking at serious prison time. Your credit's been frozen and flagged, so it'll take some work to undo the damage, but it's fixable." I looked at this young woman who'd risked everything to help a stranger. "Why did you really do this, Iris?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because somebody should have helped my dad. And because good people shouldn't have to fight alone." 6 months later, I got a letter from the federal prosecutor. Wade had been sentenced to 12 years for his role in multiple identity theft operations across 4 states. Belinda got 5 years and agreed to testify against him. I never wrote back to her letters from prison. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. 2 years have passed since that night when my world imploded and rebuilt itself in the same evening. I'm writing this from my new office. A bigger place with better equipment and 3 full-time employees. Turns out, nearly losing everything makes you appreciate success in a whole different way. The business grew faster than I expected. Word got around about what happened, and somehow that made people trust me more. Maybe they figured a guy who'd survived having his identity stolen would be extra careful with their generator maintenance contracts. They weren't wrong. Iris and I stayed in touch. She left the insurance company and went back to school to study criminal justice. She says she wants to help other people who get caught up in situations like mine. I've been quietly funding her education. It's the least I can do for someone who saved my life. Quentin and I are closer now than we've been since we were kids. Having your brother show up with backup when you need it most, it changes things between you. We have dinner every Sunday now, and he's teaching me how to weld. Says a man should know how to build things as well as fix them. I kept the house. Some people said I should sell it, start fresh somewhere else, but this place has good bones. I just had to get rid of the bad memories and make some new ones. I ripped out the carpet in the living room where Wade had stood, threatening me. Put in hardwood floors. Painted every room a different color than Belinda had chosen. The divorce was final 8 months ago. Belinda's lawyer tried to claim she was a victim, too, manipulated by Wade into doing things she didn't understand. The judge wasn't buying it. She lost everything. The house, half the business assets, even her pension from the insurance company. I don't feel sorry for her. You can't claim to be a victim when you actively plan someone else's destruction. These days, I work hard, sleep well, and don't take anything for granted. I've got a new routine. Morning coffee on the front porch, evening walks around the neighborhood, Sunday dinners with family. Simple things that mean everything when you've almost lost them. Sometimes people ask me if I'm dating anyone. Not yet, I tell them. After 18 years with someone who saw me as furniture, I'm still remembering what it feels like to be visible in my own life. But I'm not bitter. Getting betrayed by someone you love is devastating. But surviving it, that teaches you exactly how strong you really are. I fixed generators for 15 years before I learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the power of failure isn't in the machine. Sometimes it's in the person running it. And sometimes when everything goes dark, you find out you've got more light inside you than you ever knew possible.